No, but then they had me.
Testing.
At one point, I was not only in the New York one, I was working with another firm, Levy Malonzo. And before we go live, I was doing the New Jersey piece to file for the November deadline. So it's been, yeah, presentation.
So everyone, hi, I'm Judy Zangwell, I'm the executive director. We want everyone to wear masks except for people when they speak. We're concerned about the increase in numbers, I think, as we probably all are, and we're so happy you're here, but we really want you to wear your mask. Please wear it over your nose, that's the proper way to wear it. So, thank you.
And if there's any more questions, just put the next part up and I'll come pick them up.
Just waiting for my co-moderator to return. All right, good evening, everyone. Again, I'm Judy Zangwell, the Executive Director of Sunnyside Community Services. And to those viewing via YouTube and Facebook, thank you for joining us. So we at Sunnyside Community Services like to think that everyone knows who we are and the services we provide, but for the one or two who don't, here is a brief description. So the space that you all are in, not the people on YouTube and Facebook, but this is our Center for Active Older Adults, and we welcome seniors each day for a meal, fitness, art, technology classes, mental health counseling, and assistance with benefits enrollment. We provide a range of services for seniors to help them age safely in place in their home and communities, and more than 1,000 home care workers, our frontline heroes, help make that possible. Our youngest participants attend pre-kindergarten classes on the 3rd floor of this site. Our students speak 16 different languages at home. If we were to head over to our school and community-based locations, we would find hundreds of students engaging in after-school enrichment activities. For high school students, we offer college and career prep. We also support our immigrant neighbors with English classes and case assistance. Through a variety of programs for people of all ages, we serve 16,000 members annually. And we're happy that our programs are back in person. And I hope all of you think of this center as your community center. Please follow us on social media to attend an event or sign up for a service you or your family might need. And I'm now going to turn it over to our co-host, Christian Murray of the Queen's Post, who will go over what we can expect. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. My name's Christian Murray. I'm the co-publisher of the Queen's Post. We publish about 9 neighborhood news sites in Queens. Collectively, they generate about 1 million page views a month. So we hope you're all reading there. Okay, so going over the ground rules tonight, guys. First of all, you're going to introduce yourselves, and there'll be 90 seconds in which to do so. Then we're going to have a series of questions, 5 moderator questions, and each candidate will have 60 seconds to respond. Now, if someone jabs another candidate, then you will have 30 seconds to sort of rebut any comment made. So we're going to have 5 moderator questions, and then we're going to have, pick a question out of a hat. So Judy's going to pass the bowl around, and you're going to, have a person's name, and you can then ask that person a question. We're also going to have a lightning round where there's 4 questions, which are yes and no answers. And then we're going to have Serena here, co-publisher. She's going to be asking a series of questions from the public, and also some that have been derived from comments we've received. And then Judy's going to sum it up. But just as for some housekeeping rules, well, not housekeeping rules, but just anyone who's interested, there's the bathrooms out the back, and remember to keep those masks on. So,
Juan, why don't we start with you? Introduction.
Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Juan Ardila, and I'm running for New York State Assembly to represent us in Sunnyside, Long Island City, Maspeth, Ridgewood, and Woodside. The reason I'm running for New York State Assembly is because I want to fight for a Queens that works for everyone. I will fight for a government that uplifts our communities. For too long, we have had elected officials sell out our communities to developers and corporate greed. I am a leader that places need over greed. And I have experience as a community organizer and someone involved in the public defense space. I have a plan to ensure that our communities are being uplifted. Look, we need a leader that will address the climate crisis. And I have a plan to ensure that New York gets the Green New Deal that it deserves. I have a plan to address the housing crisis because we need to expand truly affordable housing and pass tenant protection measures across our state because everyone deserves a right to a roof. And most importantly, I have a plan to address public safety because the most important function of government is to keep everyone safe. And I will do so by addressing the root causes of crime. I look forward to having a conversation with each of you, and I thank you for having me. I hope to earn your vote on June 28th. Thank you.
Thank you, Juan. Johanna?
Good evening. My name is Johanna Carmona. This is my first time running. I'm a lifelong resident of Sunnyside. I was born here. I'm a first-generation American. My parents are from Colombia, and we still reside in the neighborhood. I currently litigate the Child Victim Act cases and have experience in medical malpractice and the 9/11 Victim Compensation Fund claims. Prior to, I was a prosecutor in Brooklyn, handling sexual assault and child abuse cases. Prior to becoming a lawyer, I served as a Hispanic community liaison in Kathy Nolan's office, helping constituents apply for the same programs that my family and I benefited from. The reason I am running is because I absolutely love this neighborhood. This is the community that raised me, and this is the community that has helped my family and I when we needed it the most. Like many of you, I am horrified by the news coming out of Texas, where 14 children and their teacher are dead. It is the job of our elected officials to pass laws that protect our children, and protecting families and children in this district is my #1 priority. I am honored to have the support of Kathy Nolan and Congressman Meeks, and to be in front of you, as many of you are my neighbors, my family, my friends, and of course, lifelong cheerleaders. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Johanna. Jim?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jim Magee. I grew up on 44th Street and Greenpoint Avenue. I attended St. Teresa's School. I went to high school in the city, a college in the Bronx, and law school out at St. John's. I currently live a block away from where I grew up on 44th Street and 48th Avenue, with my wife and my 2 daughters. After I left law school, I started the Brooklyn DA's office, and I prosecuted sexual offense. Over the last 8 years, I've run my own practice as a criminal defense lawyer. I'm running because 3 years ago, the bail reform law let a lot of defendants out on the street. Today, the man who shot somebody at Canal Street on Saturday was arrested. And he was out on bail. So I normally during these elections, everybody gets up here and they give their resume. And certain people, you vote for the people who have the most money and the best resume. But this is a real difference of opinion. I would have voted against the bail reform, and my 3 opponents would have voted for it. And I hope I'll explain more as the night goes on. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Brent?
Okay. Hi, everybody, and thank you for coming. I'm Brent O'Leary, and my family has a long history in the neighborhood. My grandparents immigrated from Ireland and settled in Sunnyside in the 1930s. My father grew up here, and I have been working here since I was 12 years old. I was a busboy, a waiter, valet parker, concession stand, and then I was fortunate enough to go to college and then law school on financial aid. After that, I had a successful career as an international business attorney for 30 years. And now I want to use that white collar experience along with my blue collar values to deliver for this neighborhood. As many people know, I've dedicated myself to community service for the last 10 years. Many of you know me as the president of the board of Woodside on the Move, where we've made sure that all our children have after-school programs, and we have housing rights advocacy so that everybody has a roof over their head. I'm the president of the board of the Hunters Point Civic Association, trying to make our government responsive to our community needs. And during COVID, when the pandemic hit, I set up 2 emergency food pantries. The one people are familiar with is the one at the Mosaic, and we fed 200,000 people over 2 years. So why am I running? Is because Queens is in crisis, and we need somebody with a proven record of getting things done. I'm not associated with the Queens County machine. I'm not associated with the socialist machine. I am only here for the neighborhood, and I'm here to serve you. So I humbly ask you for your vote on June 28th. Thank you.
Thank you, Brent.
Okay, guys, the first question. Johanna, it'll be to you. Okay, the lack of affordable housing is a big issue in Western Queens. There is legislation being debated in Albany, such as good cause eviction, that would cap rent increases. And then there's also a bill that would adjust the formula for determining area median income by determining it by zip code as opposed to region. Now, do you support these bills, and how would you aim to address the affordable housing crisis?
Of course, thank you, Christian. So I support, and right now we still have these programs. I would want to seek extra funding and of course keep them with rent control, rent stabilization, NYCHA, Section 8 help, SCREE, and DREE. I am support of the good cause eviction bill. I am trying to listen to all voices. I am a lifelong tenant and have always been. However, I have met with groups like the Ridgewood Property Owners Association. After discussing with residents and listening, I do believe there is needs of some clarity in the language of the bill. I will emphasize again, clarity in the language. Many people are concerned about the application, and it comes down to looking into certain provisions, which I will. However, my goal is to vote for as many laws to protect tenants.
Thanks, Johanna. Jim?
I'm in favor of any new development having affordable housing. And I would vote against the Just Cause Act. However, if the legislature decided to create a provision where it wouldn't apply to homeowners who had 5 or less units, I would be in favor of it. But as it is, you cannot treat somebody who has only 5 units or has a 2-family house and is charging rent to keep the same rent when costs are going up everywhere else. Thank you.
Brent? Thanks, Jim.
As mentioned before, at Woodside on the Move, we have a housing program where we've been protecting tenants' rights for many years. I fought against the MCI to make sure rent-regulated apartments are not raised. With the eviction clause, we will never let people harass people or indiscriminately have huge rent hikes. But that said, not paying your rent is cause for an eviction. There's many small property owners and landowners, and that's what they live on too. So it has to have a balancing of rights and make sure. I have an extensive affordable housing program, which is based on Mitchell-Lama Community Land Trusts, and we will make sure that there's a path to ownership. So these people can actually build equity in their homes and then turn them into homes and that invest in their community. You can't raise the rent on somebody if you're an owner. So my affordable housing program leads people to ownership.
Thanks, Brent. Juan?
This This is very simple. I fundamentally believe housing is a human right, and I 100% good cause tenant protection measures, and I wholeheartedly support the bill. I would vote yes. And I have a robust 5-point plan to address the housing crisis across Western Queens, in Central Queens, and across the state. By legalizing accessory dwelling units, the RPA estimates 100,000 new homes right here in our city, and we have the composition and the landscape that can be truly affordable for tenants, support struggling small homeowners, as well as create construction opportunities for construction workers without damaging the fabrics of our communities. With my plan, I will ensure everyone has a right to a roof, and I will combat homelessness by ensuring that everyone is safe, stable, and dignified under a roof in their heads, and I will ensure you stay in your homes. Thank you.
Second question, and Jim, we'll start with you. Many parents claim that the Department of Education doesn't listen to them and is not transparent. The DOE is now coming under intense criticism for not listening to parents as it looks to hire a new superintendent for School District 30. What would you do to make sure the parents are being heard and that the DOE is open and transparent to families in our district?
I think that the parents should have a member in the PEP, a voting member. That's it.
Thank you. You're welcome. Brent?
Sure. Yeah, actually, I was the only candidate who was at the press conference the other day with our elected officials saying that it was unjust to not let Dr. Composto, who is well beloved in this community, apply for his own job. And because of that pressure, he is actually now going to be allowed to. But I'm a grassroots Democrat. I believe in empowering communities. So while I don't want state control, I prefer mayoral control. I really want community control. So I'm going to make sure that the parents have a choice in how the schools are built, where they are, what the education their children are receiving. So I will be working with them to make sure that they have a real voice in the neighborhood.
Okay, I'll read the question one more time, and Juan, you will be the next one to answer it. Many parents claim the Department of Education doesn't listen to them and is not transparent. The DOE is now coming under intense criticism for not listening to parents as it looks to hire a new superintendent for School District 30. What would you do to make sure that parents are being heard and that the DOE is open and transparent to families in our district?
Fundamentally, I believe that education is the cornerstone for any thriving society and is a pathway to ensure that our youngest learners have access to a better life and to a better quality of future. What I plan to do in my education plan is to ensure the utmost transparency within our school systems and ensure that every decision is community driven. I will be a leader that ensures that you are involved in the decision-making process, and that's why I developed a plan from pre-K to 3K all the way up to as children escalate throughout the years, that parents are there in the decision-making process, that our children are receiving the funding that they deserve, and that we have superintendents, staff that are here on the grounds, and that they have the resources needed to succeed. I will be hands-on and ensure the utmost success for all of our schools throughout our district and throughout our state. Thank you.
Johanna.
So we recently saw this issue come up with Dr. Composto, and it was wonderful to see how many parents came and advocated for him because of the way that the DOE treated Dr. Composto. We saw this. He is part of District 30. Now we're all in communication with District 24 because they do encapsulate the schools here in our district. I think it's important to have the parents' input as any process, especially right now, since we're building a middle school here in Sunnyside, and there are concerns about it not being a zone school. So making sure that parents still have a voice, and I am there to listen to the parents. I have been speaking to PTA groups. I've been speaking to leaders in our community. And I think the most effective thing is to make sure we listen and advocate for the district and the children of this district. They deserve the best quality of education, and I will always advocate for that, as I am a product of the district, and I'm proud to say that we can accomplish this with our students.
Okay, next question, Brent. You're the first person to answer it. Okay, deals with excluded workers. It is clear to most New Yorkers that many immigrants are essential workers. However, hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers are excluded workers, excluded from food assistance programs, excluded from housing assistance, and excluded from unemployment benefits. What is your plan to ensure that these essential workers are able to access the services they need, including healthcare, housing, unemployment benefits, and any other benefit that other New Yorkers are able to obtain?
Thank you. And as people know, my basic philosophy is I'm an FDR Democrat. I believe in giving people the tools they need to empower themselves and then a strong social safety net. So I'll do what I've been doing. During the COVID, I set up 2 emergency food pantries. We fed 200,000 people. We did not ask if they had documentation. We did not ask what their status was, where they were from. So basically, I believe that all social services should be given because we're all human beings. So I will make sure that everybody is food secure. I've already proven that. Everybody has a roof over their head, which I've done with Woodside on the Move. And everybody has quality health care. One of the first things I want to do is push for health care. But that is for all the people in our neighborhood. And I believe that as a dignified, caring society, that is our responsibility to do. So I will advocate for those points.
Thank you, Brent.
I believe that no matter what your background is, your creed, your race, your status, you deserve to have a government that supports you. And that's what I will fight for. Every single day, I work at a legal service nonprofit supporting everyday New Yorkers, vulnerable New Yorkers, with access to cash assistance, SNAP benefits, Medicaid, SSI, SSD, and unemployment benefits. During the pandemic, the populations that were most left behind were our immigrant neighbors. Black and brown diverse communities being left behind because they didn't have the resources to succeed because of bureaucratic policies that set them back. I will be someone that removes those barriers and ensures that every single New Yorker, regardless of your immigration status, you have access to thrive, you have access to services, and you have access to benefits. Thank you so much.
Johanna? Oh, sure, absolutely. Okay, it's clear to many New Yorkers that many immigrants are essential workers. However, hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers are excluded workers, excluded from food assistance programs, excluded from housing assistance, and excluded from unemployment benefits. What is your plan to ensure that these essential workers are able to access the services they need, including healthcare, housing, unemployment benefits, and other benefits that other New Yorkers are able to obtain?
Thank you. So excluded workers are essential to our community. Like I said, I come from a family of immigrants, as my parents are here. We are a foundation, as many of us are here as immigrant backgrounds, and I do believe that we need to provide funding for so many programs like SNAP, like housing, ensuring affordable health care. As I was a product of that as well, we benefited from programs like this to achieve somewhat of an education, like my sister and I. And I think that being able to provide these opportunities for immigrants is essential for us to even build ourselves. And as a community, building one another is how we create difference in our districts. So I believe in funding and making sure that these programs are available to immigrants and that they're available in their languages. En español, para la gente que está acá, para poder ayudarlos a todos. I think it's essential, and I'm proud to even be of my immigrant background. Thank you.
Thanks, Janet. Jim.
There's a national law called the Fair Labor Act, and what happens is the employee can sue the employer in court for back wages if they're paid under. There should be a state program where you can sue your employer and who's not supposed to be employing you if you're not documented, and get a cause of action where you get paid and that money goes into a fund and you are able to receive services from the state. And that way they will sign themselves up. And the program will be funded through the employers who are taking advantage of these workers. Thank you.
Okay, next question, Juan, we'll start with you. Governor Kathy Hochul has proposed converting a 14-mile stretch of underused rail line into a new transportation line called the Interborough Express. The route would go through the Ridgewood, Middle Village, and the Maspeth areas on its way to Jackson Heights on one end and Bay Ridge, Brooklyn on the other. Would you support it, and what would you do to improve public transit in Western Queens?
Thank you for the question. I believe that public transit should be completely accessible to all New Yorkers, and that is why I fully support the Interborough Express. I will be a champion for a public transit system, and what I would do to improve the proposal would actually be to ensure that communities within our districts, such as Ridgewood, such as Maspeth, that are long transit deserts, have a stop for the Interborough, because in the current plan, we still get left behind. I will ensure that we are expanding express bus services for Maspeth, for Sunnyside, because it's public transit that we are denied. I will ensure that we are expanding bike lanes, because we need to ensure that every New Yorker has the opportunity to bike, and we also have to be mindful and combat the climate crisis that we're seeing and reduce car culture within our communities. I will be a champion for these issues, and I fully support the Interborough Express, and I hope to ensure that you have access to high-quality public transit. Thank you.
Go ahead.
As a lifelong subway user, I fully support any efforts that expand our public transportation and infrastructure that makes it easier, safer, faster, cleaner, and greener for New Yorkers to get around. Governor Hochul's Interborough Express proposal is a transformative project that would allow New Yorkers to easily commute by rail between Queens and Brooklyn without having to pass through Manhattan. I attended the IBX town halls on Zoom, and I look forward to working with the governor and the legislator to implement this project. Also, I applaud last year's passage of President Biden's bipartisan infrastructure law. We need representatives in Albany who will work with the federal government to ensure that New York State receives the funding it needs for our city and state infrastructure needs. As we see this now, the population is too big as the infrastructure needs to grow. Thank you.
Jim?
I support the new subway construction that Governor Hochul has proposed. I also think that, for instance, the new bus lines that are coming out, I think the government has to be responsive to input from the communities. And I would make them responsive by holding the local officials accountable for that. They would have to get clearance the way they do through the community boards in order to pass any new proposals. Thank you.
Brent?
I'm in favor of that rail line. I've also proposed another one called the QNS line, which is actually a freight line now, which we can actually change into a commuter line. So that, along with bike lanes and along with other alternatives that people can use. I do have to say, though, when I'm talking to people, we do have an issue with parking here. And, you know, I've been endorsed by the 504 Democrats, which are Democrats with disabilities. And there are many people with disabilities or who are older or who need tools to go to work who actually need their car. We are a transportation desert. So we have to make sure that they also have an option before our public system is good enough so they don't have to use their cars. So I would be pushing for residential parking for our neighborhoods so that we can park where we live instead of having people park here and take our spots and then use the 7 train and make us their parking lot.
Okay, Johanna, this is a question, I guess, for all the attorneys especially. Crime is up 36% in the 108 precinct and about 40% across the entire city. Many New Yorkers argue that these increases in crime are a result of bail reform. Are they right, wrong, or is there a more nuanced answer?
No. When the bail reform passed, mind you, I have to remind everyone, this was a law from 1971. It had to evolve. With that being said, I believe that it had to be written properly, and it wasn't. 4 months after the bill was passed, it was amended. The legislator failed to include crimes like criminal contempt in the second degree, one of the main protectors of victims of domestic violence, and defendants charged with producing, directing, or promoting an obscene sexual performance by a child. These were immediately included a couple months later. Additionally, the new budget, there have been changes to the bail reform. It is not a rollback, it is an improvement. There are stricter gun trafficking laws, and such as criminal sale of a firearm in the second degree went from 5 or more to 2 or more. These are changes to improve quality of life and to protect our children and our families. These are not going to equitable issues. I do believe that we do need to invest in more community programs, absolutely, but this is specifically with the bail reform.
Okay, thanks, Johanna.
I'm the only criminal defense attorney up here. I still go to court every week. I was there last week. I just want to tell all of my neighbors here, it is not a secret that the bail reform is leading to the spike in crime. It is not a secret from the defense bar. It's not a secret from the prosecutors. It's not a secret from the NYPD. As I laid out in my op-ed, the biggest problem is not just that all the people accused of crime are on the street. Most of that was true beforehand, and the judges and the district attorneys were dealing with it. Incarceration had already been down 20% over the 10 years before bail reform took place. The bigger issue is that the discovery laws were written in such a way that the district attorney's offices are overwhelmed. And if you talk to a police officer or somebody at the district attorney's office, they simply do not have the time to prosecute low-level offenses like petty larceny. And that's why you see pharmacies closing and businesses closing. There is no consequence to stealing from a store. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Number one, I am 100% against cash bail. Nobody should be in jail based on their economic status. It should not be if you're dangerous but have $50,000, you can get out, but if you're dangerous and you don't have that, you stay in. So that is wrong, and I'm glad they got rid of it. The bad part is that we are the only state in the United States which does not let judges keep people in jail based on the criteria of dangerousness. That is wrong, and that needs to change. Anyone who is a danger to society or themselves must be kept in pre-trial. So I will be pushing for that. We just had a woman push down the stairs at Queens Plaza and then hit in the head with a hammer. I don't think that is the type of person we want out before bail. I've been knocking doors. I was on 50th Street the other day. I had a 20-year-old woman tell me that a homeless guy followed her back and assaulted her. Luckily, she had pepper spray. I don't want our community to be people who have to have pepper spray. So I will ensure we have safe streets. Nobody should be scared of taking the subway or walking from their house. That is our number one issue. We will make sure that we bring safety back to the neighborhood.
All right, thanks, Brent. Juan?
The most important role of government is to ensure the safety of everyone. The problem right now with our discourse is the way that we approach public safety. At this moment, this is the most police presence we have ever had, and this is the most funding the law enforcement has received. But the crime is still happening. We are using our resources to attack immigrant mothers, working class mothers selling mangoes on the subway, instead of actually addressing what is causing crime to take place. Instead of fighting to reduce homelessness, instead of fighting to invest in our youth, instead of fighting to invest in mental health services, social services, and most importantly, removing the flow of guns in New York. With my 5-point plan, I will ensure that guns are off our streets. We need to ensure that we are passing policies and legislation and pushing for anti-gun violence programs and anti-violent prevention programs to ensure the utmost safety for our communities across our district and across our state. That is my response for public safety, and I look forward to representing you in the Assembly to ensure that we are passing legislation for the utmost safety and to keep you all, setting you all up for success. Thank you.
Thank you, Juan. Jim, we're going to start with you with this question. Many small businesses are struggling to survive with payroll being their top expense. How do you balance ensuring workers get a living wage and ensuring our small business owners survive? Sure. Many small businesses are struggling to survive with payroll being their top expense. How do you balance ensuring workers get a fair wage and ensuring our small business owners survive?
A lot of businesses are suffering from competition from online stores. They don't have the flow. For decades, we've had stores thrive with and give their workers living wages. I think that the best way to solve this problem and a lot of problems for the working class is taxation. And I think we have had a Democratic majority now in Albany for 3 years. I do not understand the Democratic majority's hesitance and either Governor Cuomo or Governor Hochul's hesitance to tax the rich. The claim is that they will go elsewhere. I don't believe that. I think if we tax the rich, we can provide loans the way the rich get to small businesses. I received a loan at the beginning of my business, and I've been able to survive because of it. Thank you.
I've actually seen the studies that show that the higher minimum wage actually increases the economy for the cities that do it. So it does feed back into the economy. Now, my father also, besides working at the racetrack, ran bars. So I know what it's like for a small business, and I don't like seeing them being hit with it. What I think we should actually do is take away some of the burdens. If we had a healthcare program that was done by the state instead of them, then that would be something that would basically take the burden off them. So let's try to take that burden off them and make that something that the government provides that they don't have to that they don't have to worry about. Also, streamlining it. We had somebody in our neighborhood hit for a $5,000 fine because they said hostess wanted, and they got hit for that because they're supposed to say host or hostess wanted. They were discriminating against men. We have some silly rules and some silly enforcement by the government. So I'm going to be standing with small business, as I did with our small business leaders on Queens Boulevard last year, to make sure the government doesn't use them as a revenue source and does the job that they're supposed to be doing.
Juan.
I believe that we need to fight and push for legislation that ensures the protection of our labor movement, of our workers. That is why I am honored to be endorsed by DC 37, 1199, and so many other labor unions, because we need leaders and legislators that will ensure that we are pushing for policies that are fighting for the prevailing wage, that are combating wage theft, that are combating worker discrimination and unsafe worker conditions. I am a leader, I am the labor candidate in my race, and I look forward to ensuring that everyone across our state has access to dignity and a stable work condition and a living wage, and ensuring that they're getting the protections needed to thrive. That's why we are here to support you. I will do everything in my power to ensure that all of our co-workers, all of our labor movement, all of those involved in the labor space are being set up for success, and that they are obtaining the prevailing wage. Thank you.
Johanna.
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. Many small businesses are struggling to survive with payroll being their top expense. How do you balance ensuring workers get a living wage and ensuring our small business owners survive?
Well, the biggest issue right now is that we have to increase minimum wage. There is no way to live at this point with the amount that is being given to us, in the sense that inflation is so high. There's so much. You go to the grocery store, I hear it. I've been speaking to many of you. You're like, can you believe I just bought so little in the grocery store and spent $200? And it is, of course, we have to increase our minimum wage. It has to be we have to be able to live in our district. Now, with the small businesses, I have met with several small business owners, and it does come down to being able to afford a lot of healthcare and balancing it out. We need to find programming to subsidize these costs for our small businesses, because our small businesses are our foundation. The people that I grew up with, their families are the owners of these small businesses. And without them, we don't have the community that I live and I love. So I think finding programs to subsidize and help with the cost, I think that would be the most effective way, but we have to increase minimum wage.
Thank you. Now we're going into a really fun segment. We're going to have each of you pick a name, and then you will be able to ask a question of the candidate's name you picked. We will still have a 60-second time limit for each response. Thank you. Sure.
Okay. I drew Johanna. How can we work together as leaders in our community to ensure that we are combating the climate crisis?
Well, thank you for the question. As for climate, I look forward, I will enact an action plan that will revitalize Newtown Creek. It is important for the future of our community and an opportunity to create a clean waterway that future generations can enjoy. I will work and get the EPA to act faster and begin the cleanup that our community needs and deserves. I will also not leave behind the industries that surround the creek. These industries are dependent on the waterway and are fixtures in good-paying, blue-collar jobs that provide economic stability in many in our community. Additionally, our district is known for issues with asthma and cancer. Ways to move towards cleaner air is by moving from gas stoves to electric in buildings. This is expensive, but we can work towards providing incentives to building and landlords. Power plant closures turn power plants into green energy hubs, specifically with solar energy. Building out infrastructure for electric cars and have those available to produce and incite people to purchase electric vehicles.
Yes.
My question is for Brent O'Leary. Brent, you ran, this is your third race, and last time you ran for the city council, and you had vowed to defund police, and you had vowed to remove public safety. How do you respond to that, as now you are saying that you're more on the more moderate, common sense platform?
Thank you for that question. And it's actually, you can see it on the Queen's Post because they did the interview. I have never defunded the police. I'm from a police family, and I've always been for safety. The police budget was $6 billion.
Yeah, run a shoot range. I hope we didn't run out of batteries.
All right.
Down people are-
So basically, the police budget was $6 billion. I said that we should spend $5 billion of that for enforcement and $1 billion of that for crime reduction measures. Basically, rehabilitation, getting homeless into the places they need. So I had $6 billion against crime, and it was still $6 billion. So if you know your math, $6 billion and $6 billion is equal, so there's no defunding.
Okay, Jim, why don't we go to you? Oh, yes, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Juan, how are we going to get guns off the street without using the police?
Thank you for the question. And I believe that the reason that we're seeing the uptick in crime, the uptick in violence, and so much death and devastation, not just in our state, but across our country, it's because of the flow of illegal guns. Not once have I ever campaigned on abolition or removing law enforcement from society. I believe there is a role to play with public safety and that law enforcement should be our first line of defense for emergencies. But we need to think forward to address the root causes of crime. We need to push for more anti-gun violence programs, reduce homelessness, invest in mental health services, in social services, and hold those that are committing misconduct accountable. That is how we invest in true public safety, and that is how we address crime and public safety moving forward to ensure the safety of everyone. Thank you.
Brent.
Jim, we've known each other for a long time, so I'll just ask you to give us your record of community service and why you think you're the best qualified person for the position.
Thank you. I expected something a lot worse. I volunteered at the United 40s. I helped volunteer when, especially now that I have two daughters, at neighborhood events like cleaning up the parks. I was lucky enough to help you last year at Mosaic. But mostly I do a lot of pro bono work, litigation, and conflict resolution at my law office without charging anybody, and represent the poor in Manhattan and Queens who can't afford criminal defense practice. I think I'm the best qualified because I think crime is going to be a big issue. I'm the only criminal defense attorney. I'm also the only parent, and I'm the only business owner. And I've lived here my entire life, although so is Johanna. But that, for those reasons, I'm not doing this just to because I want to get into politics. I'm doing this because I think this is really important, and this is the first time you guys have a chance to weigh in on bail reform.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, guys, we're moving over to the lightning round, which is, yes or no answers. Brent, we're going to start with you.
No.
All right, out of here, mate, out of here. Okay, all right. So, given the high price of gasoline, do you support removing the state gas tax right now?
I do. You have to take measures.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, yes. Conditioned.
One, over to you, mate.
Hello? Oh, yeah.
No.
So I'll repeat that. Given the high price of gas, do you support removing the state gas tax?
No.
No. One. Are we going up this way? Okay, all right. Sorry. Jim?
No.
Okay. Jenna?
No.
All right, one. We're going to go that way. Should the NYPD budget be reduced?
No.
No.
Okay, Jim, we're going to start with you. Have you taken donations from real estate developers or real estate lobby groups? No. Johanna?
Yes.
Juan?
Absolutely not.
Brent? Brent?
No.
Okay, Johanna, we're starting with you. Would you vote in support of a bill that called for term limits for state officials, such as assembly members and state senators who had served in office for, say, 8 years?
That's a tricky one. That's a too exact number.
Okay, just would you vote for term limits for state assembly? Just
Yes.
state, yes. One.
For your sake, yes.
Brent?
For my sake, yes.
Jim? Okay. So now we're going to go to public questions. I want to just congratulate all of you because you've really been respectful of the time constraint. And I know that hasn't been easy because 30 seconds, 60 seconds, 90 seconds. So thank you very much.
Okay, for public questions, I just want to say that for the first question, we received dozens of questions and comments from the public online. So for the first one, it's going to be a combination of questions and comments that's going to be specific to each candidate about race and ethnicity. So we're going to start with Jim Magee. We have heard several progressives express reluctance to endorse or vote for a white man. They say that it's time for a person of color to represent residents, especially in the post-George Floyd world. How would you respond to people with these views?
I understand.
In the mic, please.
I understand. But that you cannot judge who is the most capable and who do you think would be the most effective assembly person based on the color of their skin. I don't know why, in particular, George Floyd's murder is a reason that this is coming up. I think systematic racism has been around for a long time, and that was a particularly ugly example. But I think we shouldn't start making choices on who's going to be most effective to us based on the color of their skin.
Thank you. The next question is for Johanna. You proudly present yourself as a female Latina, but 41% of the district is white, non-Hispanic, 18% Asian, and 3% are Black. How does that resonate with them, and if so, how?
No. For me, being a Latina is something I'm very proud of. The fact that I'm fluent in both English and Spanish is something I am very proud as I come from, like I mentioned before, an immigrant background. However, I do think that my practice in law, my advocacy when I did medical malpractice, especially the failure to diagnose breast cancer, the Victim 9/11 cases, and currently the Child Victim Act cases, I think when I've met with different people from the community, they've seen how much I've worked and how hard I've worked. I worked while I was in law school, and I worked hard to make a name and put myself at a table with 3 other men. And I think that that has resonated well with the other people in the community. And it's not about race. It's about continue getting a seat at the table and making sure we also have diversity in the assembly. So I think that's what it comes down to. And I think that that message has been well received by a lot of members of the community.
Thank you. The next question is for Juan. A New York Post article said that you posted derogatory remarks about Asians, gays, women, Jews, and used the N-word in Facebook posts when you were in high school. Is that true? And what do you tell voters who are hesitant to vote for you because of this?
I am running on a campaign that focuses on inclusivity, diversity, and progressive politics for Western and Central Queens. I held myself accountable, and now that is why I rolled out a robust 5-point plan to support our LGBTQIA+ neighbors, to support our immigrant neighbors, to support our diverse populations. That is why I am honored to be supported by City Council Member Tiffany Caban. I'm honored to be supported by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I've also been endorsed by the Lesbian and Gay Democratic Club of Queens, and I've also been endorsed by Melissa Mark Viverito, Jennifer Gutierrez, Jessica Ramos, Catalina Cruz, all champions in the progressive space, all champions fighting for an inclusive Queens that works for everyone. And I look forward to representing you and ensuring that we are fighting for inclusivity, diversity, and a Queens that sets everyone up for success. Thank you.
And the last question on this one is for Brent. Queens is a diverse borough with residents collectively speaking over 100 languages. Do you believe you are the right person to represent this assembly district, given that you are a white male?
Definitely. I am a white male. I'm also Irish. And as you know, where our history is the largest, first immigrant group to come here, we were discriminated against. They used to say, Nina, no Irish need apply. So they said we were an inferior race, that we were prone to drugs and alcohol. Our drug was alcohol, prone to crime and alcohol. Crime and drugs, the drug being alcohol. So that's one of the reasons why Irish politicians were the leaders in also pushing the Civil Rights Act. We know what discrimination is, and we'll make sure that nobody in our community is ever discriminated like that. Everybody is equal in this country. I am proud that I have the endorsement of the Stonewall Democratic Club, the largest lesbian, gay, LGBTQIA thing. And I'm also glad that I've had support from leaders in our Black community, our Hispanic community. I will make sure that everybody in this diverse borough is represented. I actually speak 3 languages myself. One is Japanese. People couldn't figure that out, but I lived in Japan for 10 years. And I'm proud to represent the diverse community, so everyone will know when I'm their representative that they are representative and they're with me in that office.
I have 2 more questions from the public, from the in-person audience. The first question for all of you, I guess we'll start with Brent. Do you support eliminating Medicare copays and premiums for elderly New Yorkers through the New York Health Act?
Yes, I've actually been a proponent of universal health care. I think that's one of the things that a government should provide. You know, no one should fear going bankrupt for themselves or a loved one to protect somebody who's sick. When my father was in the hospital and he was a union member with insurance, the insurance company cut him off. And they said, no, because he won't go to rehab. I said, he's too sick to go to rehab. They said, yeah, but that's the fine print. And so we went through that place where my mother thought that we were going to go bankrupt, paying $500 a day to a hospital. I am an FDR Democrat, and I will make sure that strong social safety net is there for when we need it. We have the right to food, we have the right to housing, we have the right to health care, and I will fight for all of those.
Juan, same question.
I believe that all seniors, and especially those in our district, deserve to age with dignity and respect, and that involves that they are given all the resources needed to succeed. I support ensuring that they have access to health care, to ensure that we are expanding truly affordable prescription medication for our seniors, ensuring that we are pushing for senior housing, ensuring that they are given the resources to accessorize all different benefits, SSI, SSD, cash assistance, Medicaid, because all of our seniors deserve to be supported by their legislators, by their leaders, and they deserve to have access to quality health care without being attacked from private insurance companies. So I will ensure that we are fighting for our seniors and pushing legislation that they have all the resources needed to thrive. Thank you so much.
Yes, I will absolutely support it. I have also mentioned to many of you, as a child, my mother suffered a stroke, and it really took a toll on our family. And yes, it's regarding seniors, but this is an overall plan and support that I have. I believe that we deserve all affordable health care. I experienced how hard it is for a family to live day to day, to make sure that loved one is taken care of. And I know that resonates with a lot of you because I've spoken to a lot of you, and one of my priorities, of course, is seniors. Papi, mami, ya son seniors. And I tell my parents they're seniors now, but making sure that they have dignity, they have the respect, and they're able to go to the doctors, because one day you're okay, the next day you may not be. And the fact of the fear of not being able to afford any health care is absolutely devastating, and it's something that no one should experience.
Yes, I support New York Cares. I'm also in support of a single-payer system. This is another one of those areas where I do not understand where the Democratic majority in Albany has been. Nationwide, as the Democratic Party has pushed and pushed for a single-payer system, they've pushed for higher taxes on the rich. We got a Democratic majority in Albany, and what did they do? They passed this bail reform. I don't understand why the priorities that should be for the working class throughout the country aren't the priorities among those in Albany. And number one is taxing the rich. Number two is getting through a single payer system. Thank you.
And the last question we have from the public, which we're going to start with one. New Yorkers experience constant rate hikes and a lack of accountability from Con Ed. Do you support the Build Public Renewable Act to end their monopoly on public power?
Thank you for the question. Yes, I believe that we should be doing everything in our power to ensure that we are fighting for a renewable and a green New York. I will be a leader that ensures that New York gets the Green New Deal that it merits, that we are fighting for a 100% renewable energy economy, that we are closing toxic power plants and implementing green infrastructure, implementing community gardens, implementing more access to green space and parks, ensuring that we are expanding infrastructure to provide job opportunities for green unionized workers as well. I am a champion for climate justice, and the most important thing we can do right now as legislators is ensure the safety and the future of current generations and those in the future generation. Yes, my answer is yes, I fully support it. Thank you.
Yes, I fully support it. As we've seen, specifically right now, the hike of the Con Edison bills. We saw it here on 40th Street. We saw a couple of businesses suffer from it. And these are people I even know, the Herrera family, the Brothers Cafe. I've experienced it myself living around in the neighborhood. But yeah, supporting anything that could decrease the cost with Con Edison, but we also need to move forward towards green energy. However, in a way that is suitable and we can actually afford it without affecting other New Yorkers. I think even now, expanding our electric grid is going to be a number one thing. If we're going to push for renewable energy, we need to find affordable ways to do it without affecting the people in the community as well. So yes.
Yes, I support it. I think this is one of those issues where, you know, the conventional wisdom is that private is more efficient than public. I think this is that's only true when there are a bunch of different private companies. I think this is one of those issues where I think we should use the power of the state to make energy public. And that way, they will be accountable through the elected officials. Because right now, the people who provide us energy are not accountable at all, and we're then putting our elected officials to fight against these private corporations. So I would push for public ownership of energy. Thank you.
This is a question of our survival. This is the question of the planet. I don't think we have a choice. We have to move to a green economy, and I'm going to help us move there. Solar technology is getting much better. We got to solarize the rooftops of all of our public buildings to start to move there. And I was actually 2 years ago up on a stage here saying that we need to take power, make Con Ed a public entity. Right now it's a private entity, and that's why we don't know why it's charging us, and that's why they're charging us more money. So I was there with you. I was there with my friend Costa Constantinides when we announced the Green New Deal in Long Island City. So I just want to say that, remember, you know, we don't want people who just show up at election time. We want people who are there all the time. So make sure you look back and so who's been doing the work for the last 10 years, and that's the people who are going to be doing the work next.
Yeah, we're going to ask one more question. Start with you, Johanna. What do you think of the bike infrastructure in Western Queens, and how would you improve it?
The bike lanes. I do believe we had, you know, the bike lanes are here. There needs to be safe ways for people to get there. However, my biggest concern right now with the infrastructure of it is for people with disabilities. I have a mother that it takes her a long time to even get out of a vehicle,
and it's not easy for her to cross over from the bike lanes. I do feel like this needs to be addressed. I do believe that bikers do deserve a safe way to get from one place to another. However, I've seen the issue. For me, it's listening to our seniors and listening to those with disabilities that have been my biggest concern regarding the bike lanes. Again, supportive of it, but as long as we protect the most vulnerable in our community, I've listened to you and I would advocate for you because I do think that is the biggest issue with the infrastructure right now.
The bike lanes. One of the big reasons this assembly was so appealing is that I didn't think we were going to have to talk about the bike lanes. I don't ride a bike. I now know a lot of people who do, and I'm all for a green way of getting to work. The fact is the city isn't designed for that, and I'm sure there are ways of making sure everybody is safe. The way it is a disaster. And what I think we could do is you could have the bikes come down northern, down actually Skillman, where there's nobody over here, but they would have to start farther out than 39th Avenue and Skillman Avenue. Because the truth is the city just isn't designed to have bike lanes and cars at the same time. So I would limit what it is, and I'd try to redo what Jimmy Van Bramer and the city government did. Thank you. Bye-bye.
When they wanted to put the bike lanes on Skillman, I spoke out. I said the road is too small, the fire trucks can't turn, it's going to hurt our small business. I said, but let's work together. Northern Boulevard is great. It's wider, it makes more sense, there's more traffic accidents there. They said, no, it's not appropriate. Now, of course, as we know, they're putting bike lanes on Northern Boulevard. So either I was correct or they lied and they want to take every road, which is not appropriate. They can't have every road. I believe in empowering the community. I would like an extensive bike lane. I bike myself, but it has to be done in coordinated with the community. This community board voted against the bike lanes on Skillman, but these outside groups and this top-down government forced it down our throats. The design on 39th Avenue is even worse. We have to get rid of that right away and redesign that. And that was done with no community input. So I'm going to make sure you have a voice, and if something like that is in our neighborhood, it goes where the neighborhood thinks is most appropriate.
Thanks. Juan.
I believe all bikers deserve the safety and the dignity to ride across New York State, and that is why I consider myself a champion for bike lanes. I am excited as a lifelong Maspeth resident that we are finally getting City Bike implemented within this district on the south side, in Maspeth and Ridgewood, to ensure that we have access to bike lanes, that we are implementing conflict-free bike lanes to ensure the safety of pedestrians and bikers, and most importantly, we need to ensure that any design or plan involves community input. There has to be transparency from the local elected officials to community members to ensure what is the best pathway to implement bike lanes to reduce reduce car culture across Queens, across our district, and what can we do to ensure the safety of bikers across Western Queens and Central Queens in a way that is innovative and creative, where we can be the leading voice for bike lanes and infrastructure and public transit across our borough. Thank you.
Thank you, Juan. We're wrapping it up now. I'd like to thank all of the candidates for coming this evening, giving up, your time, and I want to wish all four of you the best of luck in the race. I'd like to thank Judy Zangwell from Sunnyside Community Services, Serena there, Queen's Post, and I'd like to thank all the audience for joining and for those that are watching it on YouTube and Facebook. So thank you again and good night.
Oh my God.
Okay, good.